excited to be here with y'all today and hope that you take away some good ideas that will help your chapter scholarship program. We built in a couple of Q&A times, so if you'll hold your questions until we post that up on the PowerPoint. During our presentation, we're going to go through some of these topics for discussion. The first one is program intent, and this will tell you a little bit about the intent of the scholarship program and who benefits from it. The funding strategies and considerations will give you ways and ideas to get you started on your chapter scholarship program. The legal implications will help you with ways to research any legal implications that you can encounter as you're setting up your scholarship program. Program development will help you with different types of programs that you could incorporate into your development of your scholarship program, your criteria that could impact the program, and documents that you may be able to use as you develop the program. For program management, you'll find out some different resources that you already have and how you'll be able to use and manage them in your scholarship program. And under performance measures, we're going to look at ways to measure how well your program is working and how effective it is. So we're going to take a few minutes here and do a polling question. If you'll answer this, does your chapter have a scholarship program?
Hey, look at those results. Yay.
So we have quite a bit of chapters that have scholarship programs. That's excellent.
Yes, it looks like 78% have answered yes and 21% answered no. Do you guys want to comment on that, or do you want me to go ahead and hide it?
You can go ahead and hide it. Those are interesting results. It kind of shows that it's an important initiative for chapters. So when we get into program intent, the first key to a successful scholarship program is to work deliberately. So we ask ourselves, what's the intent of our program and who are we trying to reach? We have another polling question here. What is your program objective? For those of you who have a scholarship program or are working on developing a program, we have this short poll to gather some information on who you're trying to attract and what you're promoting. Wow, that's we've got a lot of member professional development. Excellent.
That's awesome.
Okay, I'll go ahead and hide that for now.
We'll move on to the next one. So when we talk about objectives, here are some basic objectives that your program might want to achieve. If you're looking to engage students, consider application requirements. For instance, for our student scholarship, we require an essay where they consider if public procurement appeals to them. We're trying to get a new generation interested in public procurement. We also require our scholarship recipient to accept their award in person and establish student membership. These make these win-win objectives. So the student gets to learn about public procurement, and we also have more engagement from the student community. We also have the objective of increasing member engagement. Consider participation scholarships and awarding points for active volunteerism or regular event attendance, if that's an objective of your chapter. You may be looking to increase certified membership and have a program dedicated to funding prep classes or exam fees. You may be looking to increase formally educated membership and have a tuition reimbursement program to that end, or to supplement agency professional development budgets, which that was more of a problem a couple of years ago, but it continues to be a problem for some smaller agencies. You could look at some agency scholarships or even contests between agencies for recruiting reverse trade show attendance, or, there's a number of things that you could do on the agency side. You may be looking to support new members who may not be eligible for your participation scholarship. In that instance, you might look to lotteries or needs-based scholarships. Or you may be looking to support seasoned members. Consider someone who may have been in procurement for 20 plus years and may have never had the opportunity to attend an IGP forum. Consider the benefit that the attendees at forum get when they network with someone who has this degree of experience. Is that a program worth developing? Some might say yes. Also consider supporting retirees. How do they afford to stay engaged with income constraints that come with retirement? Do you need to keep them engaged to mentor your membership? We have a large number of members exiting the workplace, and are we prepared to see them go, or do we need to put scholarships in place to ensure that we maintain an adequate base of mentors? So what are the needs of the membership? Without adequate information about the makeup of your membership, it'll be difficult to program effectively. For instance, what good is it for a chapter to dedicate all of their scholarship funding to CPPB prep and exams when 60% of their members are short on undergraduate studies? The worst thing possible is to see funds allocated and unused year after year. So when you put your strategic planning hat on, ask yourself, what agencies are in most need of funding? Is my scholarship program going to those who need it or those who are just seeing an opportunity? What percentage of my membership is retiring in the next 5 years? And what does that mean in terms of our objectives? Can we achieve our objectives without them? And what percentage is eligible for certification? Consider the prerequisites, degrees, classes, and experience. Do your members have those things? What percentage of membership is not yet eligible for certification? What are they short on? Experience? Are they short on classes? Are you able to recruit interns and students? Can a scholarship increase your appeal? Without really knowing who your members are and what their needs are, you're creating programs arbitrarily and hoping that something hits. You'll significantly increase the efficacy of your program if you take the time to conduct this type of analysis. As one of your resources with this webinar, we've attached a needs analysis that we conducted in 2016 for the Central Florida chapter of NIGP, and you can kind of see from that document the questions that we asked so that we could program, almost custom program in accordance with the results that we received from that needs analysis, so that we wouldn't put time and resources into programs that would go unused.
Now we're going to move into funding. We're going to look at some strategies and considerations that you might want to use as you're thinking about ways to fund your scholarship program. We have another polling question. If you'll look through this list, and if you already have a program in place or if you're considering getting one, how do you want to fund your programs, or how do you fund your programs? Looks like reverse trade shows the big one. That's actually our biggest one as well.
Like reverse trade show is the leader.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Shannon, we'll take that one down.
Okay, how will we fund, or how will you fund the scholarship program? We're going to give you some strategies and things to consider as you go through the process of developing a scholarship program for your chapter. The first question you want to ask is, how will I fund this scholarship program? Look at everything your chapter does now that brings in any kind of income or revenue for your chapter. After a while, you can research different ideas and different ways that your chapter might want to try to fund their scholarships. A lot of chapters hold the reverse trade show, and as you saw, that's probably the biggest way most of you are also earning your money. This is an excellent way to get revenue that you can put back into the chapter scholarship fund, depending on the size of your chapter, how active your members are, the size of the town and county or area you're holding the reverse trade show in. Are you in an area that would be successful with vendors coming in to the reverse trade show? Some considerations as you decide. Do you have a place big enough to hold the trade show? How much will you charge? What are your expenses to hold the show? Will you have enough participation from your agencies to make it worthwhile for the vendors to attend? And that's a huge question because they always want to see as many as they can during that time. And then, of course, there's traditional trade shows, and that's another way to get revenue from your scholarship program. Speed buying is another excellent way to create some revenue for funding your scholarship program, although this is on a much smaller scale than the reverse trade show. We do a small one usually on purchasing month in March. This year we're doing it in May. For those not familiar with speed buying, the buyers sit at tables and the vendors rotate from table to table about every 3 to 4 minutes, and this gives them an opportunity to visit with as many buyers as they can in a short period of time. The next one would be fundraisers, and your chapter might have some other good ways or types of activities or events that you could provide to your chapter to create that extra bit of revenue that you could use for your scholarships. And a golf tournament, there's a couple chapters I know of around Florida as even that has golf tournaments, and it's a pretty good revenue generating event for their chapter. Social events, you may have special social events during the year that could bring in extra revenue. Corporate sponsorships, during the trade shows or reverse trade shows, you could have sponsorship levels that vendors can sign up at different levels. For example, you could have a gold, emerald, diamond levels, and they could receive a certain amount of free entrances to the trade show or advertising in an event book. Brainstorm and come up with ways and ideas and different things that could be beneficial to your vendors. And then the last thing we had thought of was soliciting contributions. Your chapter might already have something like this in existence to raise some revenue for your chapter. How will you manage your funds is another question you need to look at as you're developing your scholarship program. Once you've come up with ways to fund your scholarship program, how are you going to manage these funds for your chapter? There's several ways you can manage these funds. You can commingle them into your current account, but this can get confusing if you don't have someone monitoring it. You can also have sub-accounts within this one account, and one of your chapter officers may be appointed to oversee the scholarship program. A separate account could be set up just for your scholarships. This can sometimes be very confusing, going from one account to the next and keeping track of the two accounts. And we know this from experience. That's the issue we had. Your chapter will have to find a way to manage the funds that best suits your chapter and your members. Another way is endowments. A financial endowment is a donation of money or property to a nonprofit organization for the ongoing support of that organization. Usually the endowment is structured so that the principal amount is kept intact while the investment income is available for use, or part of the principal is released each year, and this could allow for the donation to have an impact over a longer period of time than if it were spent all at once. An endowment may come with stipulations regarding its usage, and that's probably one of the least ones you want to look at. Investments could be used to manage your funds, and the funds can be dispersed as expenditures for procurement-related classes, books, and funds can be processed as reimbursements for procurement-related classes, books, conferences, etc. And another idea you want to look at is, will your funds roll over from year to year? Your chapter can decide if your funds must be used yearly, losing any that is left over at the end of the year, or if the scholarship money left at the end of the year will roll over into the next year. If you decide to not roll it over, you need to have something in place to put that money into that you're not going to use anymore. If you want to throw it back in there and start over with that, add that amount to it, that would be one idea. If you allow funds to roll over, how long do you want to allow this money to roll over? How many years would they be allowed to keep rolling over their scholarship money? And one thing we did, we were doing it yearly, and then when we wanted more people to start coming to Forum, we started allowing them to build it. So in 2 years, they know that they might be able to come to Forum because they've let that money roll over. And will they have to request at the end of each year that their remaining scholarship be rolled over, or they lose it? So you need to think about that as you're setting this up as well.
Yeah, because if you let the funds kind of roll indefinitely, you might have someone who's no longer a member, or the funds could grow large and just unused. So we have a short break here for questions.
Okay, I'm looking now to see. I don't see any questions. I need to do a little drag down here. Hold on. Yeah, I don't see any questions. Anybody have any questions? Put them in the Q&A box. But I don't see anything at this time. Maybe people are just still kind of processing everything, and they'll put questions in during the next part of the presentation.
Okay, you can ask questions as they arise to you, and Shannon will just read them to us when it comes to the question break.
Sounds great.
Okay, so we'll move on to legal implications. What do we need to know? So these slides are not intended to disseminate legal advice, but to caution chapters that there are some legal implications with the distribution of scholarship funds. So here, we really want to encourage you to consult with your chapter accountant or taxing authority. A lot of considerations with the scholarship programs have to do with non-discrimination, the selection of recipients, and even checking into the terrorism watch list. There is a sanctions search website published by the U.S. Treasury where you can search for this information, however unlikely it is that one of our members would be on that list. Let's hope. When you put your program together, in some instances, you may want to use a selection committee to take precaution and mitigate the risks of conflict of interest and to ensure that the criteria is fair and objective. This being a public procurement association, we're all very familiar with the challenges of selection, and objective evaluation of scholarship standards are very similar. So another consideration is, and something that was of specific concern to us in developing our program, was that some, not all, scholarship distributions can be considered taxable income. And it's important when developing your program to ensure that you have the resources to meet regulatory requirements. For instance, do you have the office space to securely store 1099 documents? You know, how will your membership feel about having to provide their tax ID or social security number to you so that you can issue them a 1099? You know, do you have the accounting knowledge within your membership to issue these compliance documents? We were able to consult with our accountant to preliminarily vet our scholarship programs as non-taxable based on a caveat that our scholarship structure is more of a member entitlement, but we're in the process of conducting a more in-depth analysis so that we can confidently disperse funds without exposing our chapter or its members to any tax liability. So also consider that any chapter that's paying at more than $600 in prizes, awards, and other income during the year would have to issue a 1099 miscellaneous. Program development from soup to nuts. So there are quite a few program types that you could develop for different types of scholarships, and I'll go through these briefly. We have student scholarships, limited purpose scholarships. This would be a scholarship that you could use to, for instance, fund members to go to forum or fund their certification. There are point accrual scholarships. These reward participation. Typically, you have a budget allocated, and you divide the aggregate of all the points into the budget and determine the point value. We attached our participation-based program application to this presentation so that you have a copy of that if you are interested in developing that type of program. There are merit-based scholarships, which would be, for instance, any type of award that would be attached to achievement of CPPO or CPPB. There are award benefits, for instance, perhaps your Buyer of the Year, Manager of the Year, or Member of the Year award might include a registration to a class or a registration to forum. With competitive scholarships, we have, perhaps an essay contest, performance requirements or challenges. There are agency scholarships, lottery scholarships, which are generally not as effective as participation scholarships if you have a lot of longtime members. But if you have an influx of new members that might not have had the time in your association to really participate as actively as you would need to really get enough points to attend a class, then you might want to look into doing like a scholarship or, pulling names out of a hat for a class or for some funding for prep. There are also grants, subsidies, sponsorships, and contests. We found that to best meet the needs of our membership, we have a combination of scholarship offerings to keep our objectives in balance. So when you consider your eligibility criteria, consider the length of the membership of the member. Are you going to give a scholarship to someone who's been a member for just a month? Consider attendance. Is this a person who is actively participating or not? Consider geographic limits. Here in Florida, we have quite a few chapters. So we have to make the choice of, are we going to allow someone to become a member and obtain a scholarship if they're 300 miles away and they're not really supporting our mission? What about members that are in multiple chapters and they're just stacking their member benefits? Consider agency size and budget constraints, chapter contributions, employment status. Are they employed? Are they transitional? Are they retired? If someone becomes unemployed, what happens to their scholarship? Some might argue that professional development is critical to someone unemployed. Others might argue that these resources are for active procurement professionals, and both arguments would have merit. Also consider post-award opportunities. If you give away trips for forum, have members publish articles about their experience. Collect testimonials that'll help towards demonstrating that membership in your association has value. And also obtain commitments. For instance, we recently developed a scholarship program that provides Toastmaster dues. We noticed that we had a lot of members with a lot of knowledge that weren't really sharing that knowledge because they had a fear of public speaking. So we leveraged our speaker budget to fund these Toastmaster scholarships, and we're paying full dues. But in exchange for that, we are requiring a commitment, and that member has to present at least one topic for the membership.
Okay, when we look at our program documents, you want to make sure you have things lined up and everything approved as you're providing everything for your scholarship program. With our bylaws, there could be some major problems if you haven't written everything down and approved it. Something that people can go back and look at and make sure you're following the guidelines that you've set up. Having the chapter bylaws for your scholarship program protects any major funding that you have in place for your chapter, and you'll want it to cover everything possible that could happen or that's going to happen with your scholarship program. Your bylaws need to specify member eligibility for the scholarship program. You might want to say a member of after a year in good standing or 6 months or something like that, but you need to specify that. You'll want to determine who is eligible and make sure you spell it out in the bylaws. You don't want somebody to come in 1 month and all of a sudden apply for something and then they use it and then they're gone. You want to make sure that they're going to be somebody that's going to be around for a little while. In your policies and procedures, you'll want to have everything approved. So like I said, you want to make sure you have it all spelled out. And you want to spell out everything that you're going to use in your scholarship and make sure any changes you make that you change that in your policy and you want to have it approved. We usually go to our, most of ours we have approved by our chapter as well, so everybody's well aware of any changes that we're making to our policies. Under procedures, you want to establish deadlines for your scholarship program. We have a scholarship committee consisting of the vice president and a committee chair. The applications come to the committee chair to review and approve, and then the VP gets it to record on the scholarship log. Our chapter does our scholarship calendar year, so it's January through December 31st, with applications due by January 31st of the following year. So our calendar year is January 1st through December 31st, and they put their application in by January 31st of the following year. Any received after that time, we don't accept. Once a scholarship log is created for a year, you need to establish if the scholarships roll over, like we already talked about previously. If you decide to roll them over, our chapter has a cutoff date of December 15th. So say for this for the past year, for 2016, you start earning your, you have all your scholarship points you can use throughout the year, but by December 15th of that year, we have to have everybody fill out a deferment form, and they have to put their points on there that they want to defer for the next year, and anyone that does not fill that out will lose their scholarship points, and they'll just go away at the end of that year. We have our scholarship applications, which we tweak yearly, and I think we had a copy of it. We provided that as well in some of the documents we put on there. So we tweak this yearly. There's things in there that might change. We might add more points or take points away. We might add some different committees and things onto that each year. We also have a scholarship log, which is kept by the vice president, and all the requests go onto that for review and approval, and he keeps track of it as he receives all the applications or the requests to use scholarship money. The points used are deducted on the log. And we also have a couple more documents that we provided. One is the NIGP Forum First Timer Scholarship Program. So this is for somebody that's never been to Forum before, and we offered it last year. So they put in the application. I think they had to do a little essay, and we reviewed those and selected a winner, and we provided their registration, and I think up to $2,500 we gave them, the winner, to be able to come to Forum. We also had a Young Professional Scholarship, and we had an NIGP Forum Emerging Professional Scholarship, and that was for some of the younger people that had never been, so they got to come as well.
All right, we have another break for questions.
Okay, we have several. So I'm just going to start from the top and then go down. All right, this is from Dracus Wiggins. Do you have a sample or more details regarding the need analysis you conducted for South Florida? Did you answer that already?
Regarding the needs, the needs analysis that we conducted for Central Florida, we have attached to the presentation. That's one of the files that was provided. And basically the questions that we asked, we were trying to figure out who was exiting the workplace. We were trying to find out who still needed their undergraduate degree, and if so, if they were in pursuit of certification, who was in recertification status, and who was in pursuit. So those were kind of the questions that we asked, but the survey and the results that we received are attached.
Yeah, it's in the files. If you go to the files box and you scroll down, the file is called Central Florida Chapter of NIGP-Needs Analysis. Okay, this is from Doreen. My question is, within the state, how many chapters compete against one another to building funds, but I think maybe to build funds?
Well, I mean, I want to say we have over 10 chapters in Florida.
I think there's 11.
So I don't think we're necessarily competing to build funds. I mean, we have reverse trade shows that sometimes overlap a little bit. And I also wouldn't say that we compete in membership, but we do encounter quite a few people that we find are members of multiple chapters. And we kind of try to look out for that to see where they're participating meaningfully. And so we have a little bit of discretion with our membership to make sure that we don't have people that are just signing up to participate in our scholarship program, because we have, you know, some members that have up to $10,000 in their scholarship account. It's more like an account that they're accruing. So we want to make sure that in keeping with the intent of the program, we don't have people that are just signing up and getting points just for being certified that they're actually participating.
We have several big chapters too. I think there's like 3 really big chapters, or maybe 4.
Large chapters.
Large chapters, yeah. And, you know, we're not competing against each other. We're each doing our own things and building our own scholarship programs.
Okay, great. Thank you. And this is from Karen. How do you handle entities that don't allow buyers to accept gifts from vendors? This has been a problem with some agencies in our area.
So we haven't really encountered that problem because we're not really soliciting funds from vendors in that type of way. We get sponsorships from vendors, but it more supports our operating budget. If we have an event such as speed buying where vendors are participating, we give buyers the option of either eating with vendors or not eating with vendors, but we haven't, but gifts haven't really been a consideration of that.
Yeah, we don't do they don't bring gifts, and give things out at our reverse trade show or the speed buying. They might give flyers or something about their business, but that's all.
I know that some will do like raffles from vendors, like accept gifts from vendors and then raffle them off, but we have not gone in that direction. And we really wouldn't recommend going in that direction, just in principle because of our industry.
Okay. This is from Dracus. Does structuring your scholarship program as an award program circumvent those legal impacts?
So I would say no. The way that we've been able to, and some of our programs might be on the chopping block because of this 1099 situation. Our largest program is currently carrying almost $100,000, so that's the program we kind of want to protect because some of those members have been accruing it over a period of 5 years. So you don't want to take someone who's done all this work and they've accrued $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 and tell them all of a sudden, we're going to have to tax you on this money. So that large program, what we were able to find out about that was that because it was an entitlement and more of a member benefit, and because we didn't have a selection committee and we weren't kind of choosing who to give scholarships for, we had clear outlined eligibility criteria and any member was eligible to receive that scholarship. They deemed it as more of an entitlement, and so it was not taxable. It's more of a member benefit, and part of our, for tax purposes, our accountant said that it's part of our operating budget to support our membership. But really, I would encourage everyone to look at their program and to speak to their tax professional to make sure that would be the case for their program.
Okay. Denise had a question. It's just speed buying ? Vendors pay to attend?
They do. Right now, we're charging $99 for speed buying admission.
And that includes, we also include their lunch with that.
All right, here's another one. This is from Nancy. As it relates to reverse trade shows as a fundraiser here in the Atlanta area, our chapter has competition from other chapters as well as other agencies. How do you create a show that offers something that vendors have not already gotten for free from another source?
So, the reverse trade show it's kind of like this flame that's dimming out a little bit. I don't know how sustainable it is for us. We're seeing growth, but it's going up and down, and we're also noticing that a lot of agencies and state agencies have started doing their own trade shows, which that does compete with our funding source. What we've been doing is we just try to increase the value. So, for instance, this year, rather than just admission, we include admission and, we give you an electronic copy of our member directory, and we have some sponsorship opportunities, and we have some website banners, and we have, a couple of upsells in the hopes that we can keep them coming. And we extend a lot of personal invitations. So a lot of our attendees are attending really in support of the association and not so much for the benefit of meeting the agencies.
We're lucky in this area. We have a huge area here, and we've not had a whole lot of issues. We've been really lucky to be able to have excellent trade shows.
Is that the last question?
Sorry, there's just one more. Sorry, my little delay. This is from Dracus. On your slide for regulatory consideration, it states, quote, awards to attend a professional conference or training session, ... likely do not qualify, ... What do conference and sessions not qualify for?
Non-taxable, like, for instance, tuition. Any funding that you receive towards college tuition would be not taxable, but scholarships to attend professional conferences and training sessions, those are not likened to tuition, like undergraduate tuition or graduate tuition.
Okay, so that was the last of the questions that have been coming in. So thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move into managing your program. Do you have sustainable resources to keep this program going? And we have another polling question. How many resources do you have to manage this program? Okay, it looks like 1 to 3 is what most of you have. We have several that just have 1. Okay. So is the program going to be sustainable? Is the funding consistent? Will your chapter be able to maintain the program? Is the funding consistent? Do we continue to bring money into this program? And this is something you have to look at as you're going and planning. Are you doing things to constantly provide funds for the chapter scholarship program? Is the volunteer base adequate and consistent enough to manage the programs from year to year? Your chapter should have enough volunteers in all areas and enough to continue working events to earn the scholarships. You should always have a big pool, or at least a medium-sized pool of volunteers, and as new members join the chapter, you should always reach out to them with volunteering opportunities. Do you have resources for marketing? As you develop your program, you'll want to budget money to allow for marketing opportunities. You need to reach out to your chapter and let them know of all scholarship opportunities that they could possibly have. Keep your chapter informed of the scholarship program, and anytime you make any changes to it, make sure your chapter is aware of it. Do you have mechanisms for tracking your program? You'll want to develop an application for chapter members to be able to apply for scholarships and have a committee that checks and approves these applications. You'll want a spreadsheet to keep track of scholarships and how they use them. Can you make timely disbursements? Wherever you have your funds, will you be able to disperse to a member when they need it? Make sure they know the process and how long it will take from the time they apply to use the funds and when they will receive the payment. For us in Florida, we're in, all of our officers are in widely separate areas. So, you know, we can't just run a check down for the president or the vice president to sign. So somebody will put in their application, the committee approves it, it has to go to the treasurer to cut the check, then the check goes back to the vice president or another officer to sign, then it gets mailed out. So we always tell our people to allow 2 to 3 weeks from the time they put in for it until they get the check. If they need it right away, they can always let us know. We can, you know, maybe speed it up, but for the most part, we try to stick to the 2 to 3 week time frame. Do we have resources to thoroughly audit the applications? You should have a committee in place to audit these applications. You may have one person to receive the initial applications, as we do. We have a committee chair who gets all the, oh no, that's right, our vice president gets those. And they verify that everything is accurate and all documentation is there. And send that to someone else to review and post on a spreadsheet or whatever mechanisms you use for tracking. This way you have a double check of all applications. You may also want to keep a current spreadsheet posted on your chapter website so that members know what they have available. We keep it after probably once a week or so. If there's been changes to it, we try to get ours posted on there, and we'll put the new date and updated at such and such a date so they know this is the most current one. Another consideration, can we comply with IRS requirements and deadlines, as Julie talked about? Make sure your chapter is aware of all the IRS requirements. Get with your accountant. If there are any, you need to know when they're due and that you're able to meet any of those deadlines with the IRS. Do we have consistent applicants? If you have volunteers in your chapter and you make the whole chapter aware about this process and that they'll get scholarship money to be used for procurement-related classes, books, etc., you'll have applicants that make sure they apply yearly. And that's the driving point for a lot of our people. They make sure they come to meetings. They make sure they do different committees, even if it's something really simple and doesn't take a lot of their time. they know they'll get points and get scholarship money in the end. Keep in mind that this may be the only way that some of your chapter members are able to go to classes, maybe to forum, to get anything else that's procurement related. If you offer a well-planned scholarship program, the chapter members will consistently apply and use their scholarships.
So performance measurement. Have we been effective? So when we started this presentation, we spoke about intent. And so if we are trying to program effectively and intentionally, the way that we know that we have met our objectives is by revisiting, our original intent. So the way that we have measured efficacy is by regularly surveying our membership and pursuing continual improvement. We follow up on award and certifications achieved. So if we have a program, for instance, we sponsored a CPPB prep class. In a couple of months, we're going to see if the people that attended that prep class that we sponsored have achieved their certification. That way, we can see the efficacy of that program that we established that would fund them. Degrees awarded. So if you did your needs analysis and you determined that 20% of your membership is short on undergraduate studies, it's good to periodically check to see if that number has reduced to 15%, to see if you've achieved higher credentials from within the membership. And it's important to have routine needs analysis and compare the results to see how the makeup of your membership is changing, especially as we have more people exiting the workplace and more people coming in, to kind of see what the makeup of your membership is and how it changes from year to year, and how you'll need to curtail your programs and to program intentionally to meet the objectives of your chapter. These programs and measuring efficacy and even collecting those testimonials are a great opportunity to share what your chapter is doing for your profession.
Yeah, another thing, we had a couple of people go to forum last year, the first timer and the young professional, and we had them write part of their agreement and getting the $2,500 to go. We had them write a paper for our newsletter about their experience. So that's kind of a testimony of, look, I got this, and this is how this works, and it worked out really well.
Well, that brings us to the end of our presentation, and we will open the floor for more questions.
Okay, I see some more have kind of come in. This is from Doreen. Let me let it so you all can see it. Do other chapters have a problem with getting new and old members engaged to volunteer for a committee? We do reach out, and it's either they honestly don't have the time to work or scheduling or so on and so forth. Do you have any comments on that?
For our chapter, we do, it's that 20-80 rule. 20% of chapter members are doing 80% of the work. So, with our desire to put together this participation scholarship, we have a policy of not turning anyone away who wants to volunteer. With that being said, we had to modify our application to make sure that for each volunteer activity, you didn't just say, I was the chairman of marketing, give me my points. It was, they had to list a contribution. So I was the chairman of marketing, and I put together a marketing plan in February, and I'm asking for my 40 points. So to that end, we've tried to create opportunities to make it enticing for members to stay engaged and to volunteer, both old members and new members. We've also, at the recommendation of NIGP at the Leadership Symposium, we've started creating episodic committees, so that, and we allow points for those as well. so that someone coming in who might not be able to do a long engagement still has the opportunity to obtain points for doing maybe a short engagement or a task force.
We have a one-day workshop coming up in a couple of weeks, and we've asked for volunteers, and they'll come to the workshop, and they'll help people with questions. They might help with registration. They might help with the food, and they'll get extra points just for doing that. And that's one of the episodic things that Zilly was talking about. And that's just a one-time thing. It's not taking a lot of their time. They were going to come to the workshop anyway, so they get points for doing that.
And we even try to come up with some committee positions that don't require regular meeting attendance. I'll give you an example. We're trying to transition from paper records to electronic records. So we have, a Dropbox, and like many other chapters, we're using Chapter Manager, and we have this, back-end repository of documents. And so, we have a committee chair that really doesn't have to, attend all 6 of our meetings to go back in there and to make sure that our file structure is organized and that we have a naming scheme and that, we have our historian duties are fulfilled and kind of transition to an electronic platform. Do we have any other questions?
Okay. Yes, we have one more from Drakus. How should scholarship application reviewers be handled? Eligible or ineligible for scholarship?
If you mean the person auditing the application,
I think they're talking about the people looking. The people reviewing. Who the people that are reviewing the applications, they don't have a chance at scholarships, or yes or no?
For the participation scholarship, the one that's an entitlement, that person is eligible for scholarship because they're really just in more of an auditor capacity. They're not making a determination as to the really the qualification of that person for scholarship. They're just marking them eligible or ineligible. But for the other applications where they're more merit-based, for instance, like for our Buyer of the Year or Manager of the Year that come with registration attached to them, those reviewers would be ineligible for those awards. And unless you're talking about like an entitlement scholarship, it's probably best for whoever's reviewing that application to not be eligible for that same scholarship.
Okay. And then the next question is from Rufus. How large is your membership and what is the participation rate?
We usually stay at about like 230, 240 members, and we usually give out about 70 or 80 participation scholarships annually, and they average about $600, with the highest currently being at $10,000.
Wow. Very cool. Okay, that's it for questions.
Because we let it roll from year to year. So like Diane mentioned, a couple of years ago we hosted Forum in Orlando, and so for that period we let it roll for 1 year, and then we found that the membership really liked it, and so we asked ourselves, why not just let it roll indefinitely? And so we let it roll indefinitely, but we require the members to submit an application to defer their funding so that we're not just, putting money in our budget and we don't have a high holding in our bank account for money that's never going to be used.
And believe it or not, we do have some people that don't put that deferment in by December 15th and lose money in their scholarship fund.
There's always a few, and they're usually really upset, but we're very firm with our deadline. If you don't put in by January 31st, you're not in. And if you don't defer your funds by December 15th, then you lose them.
Cool. All right, well, that's it for the questions.
Well, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. It's really exciting for us to be able to share what we've learned through this process.
One more. And this is
one more question. Do
you offer scholarships for local conference attendance?
We do. We don't discriminate against other associations. We don't try to restrict it to just our chapter events. So we allow our chapter scholarship to be used for, you know, CAPO and FAPO and NIGP and NPI, and whatever it is you need to be successful in public procurement, we're going to support you with our scholarship program.
Pretty much anything that's procurement related. If you need a book, a procurement type book for your job or something, that'll go too.
Yeah, we're pretty liberal with our scholarship policy, but you know, depending on the resources that your chapter has, you know, you might not be able to at the onset be that liberal.
And I don't think we were actually in the beginning.
In the beginning we weren't.
Yeah, in the beginning we were really we were really careful of what we put in there, and like I said, every year we tweak it to either add things or take things out, and we change the point values depending on, you know, if it was something that we felt should be higher points or lower points. So we review it throughout the year, and by the time the scholarship application goes out toward December for that year, we've got it tweaked to where that's the way it should be for that year.
Yeah, so we try to match what our scholarship points are to, you know, objectives that we have going. So right now we're kind of focused on student engagement and things like that. So, you know, you'll see on our application that, you know, we're allocating a good amount of funds right now to our mentoring program. In other years, you might see that that's a little bit lower because maybe mentoring is not in the spotlight, and, you know, maybe we have another program that is. Or, you know, we also have, you know, class registration benefits and things like that. So depending on the objectives of our chapter, you'll find that our scholarship programs kind of mirror whatever our big initiative is. We put our money where our mouths are when it comes to scholarship. Is there any other questions?
Okay. Yes.
Feel free to reach out to either one of us, too, after this is done. We'll be glad to send you some more information.
From Stacy, can you supply a template of the form for the rollover?
The deferment. That would be our deferment. It's a request/deferment form. We do both things on the same form.
I don't think that was one of the ones we provided.
No, it wasn't.
So,
it wasn't.
Shannon, how do I send that to you?
Sure, you can send it to me, and I'll send it out to everybody.
All right.
I'll send it out to everyone on email along with the recording.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Like I said, it's a deferment/request form. So if I wanted to go to Forum and I was going to use my scholarship money, I would fill it out. It has current scholarship money, how much Forum's going to cost, and then what I'll have left after that on there. And then it goes to the committee. They approve it, sign off, fill it out on the scholarship money, take that away from my scholarship points. And then, like I said, at the end of the year, that's also used for deferring your points.
Okay. I think that's the last one.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have been able to present this topic to NIGP, and we're happy to see all the members that participated today. And you can certainly reach out to us at any time, and we're really glad to support other chapters and their initiatives, so we're happy to discuss it with you.